Purdue is coming off a season last year in which they won the Big Ten West and made it to Indianapolis, only, of course, to get spanked by Michigan, and then ended up going to a pretty good bowl game, which they lost as well. However, there's going to be a lot of overturn in West Lafayette this year, as there's a new head coach in town in Ryan Walters, and he has to deal with a lot of roster overturn. However, despite all of that, can Purdue be a sleeper team in the Big Ten West and make it to Indy for the second straight year, or is the young head coach going to need some time to help overturn this team? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 133 FBS-level college football teams this summer, and yeah, guys, that means I'm doing your favorite team. So if you'd like, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so that you can hear my thoughts on your favorite team. And you can do more than that, help support my channel. You're already doing one by watching the video, and you can do more by liking, commenting, subscribing, and really anything else you can think of to help support my channel. Whatever you guys are able to do, I would appreciate it a lot. The Purdue Boilermakers in 2023. Ryan Walters may very well have his work cut out for him, but there are still some solid pieces here. Hey, how do preview predictions work on my channel? I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. We go through a roster overview, take a look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Purdue Boilermakers football schedule and giving it just a good old-fashioned game-by-game preview and prediction. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you your Boilermakers in 2023. Starting out, of course, with the quarterback position. You do lose a star quarterback in Aiden O'Connell. 3,490 yards on 64% completion, 22 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions last season. Yes, the touchdown to interception ratio could have been a lot better, but he made a lot of big plays last year. Was one of the many reasons why the Boilermakers were Big Ten West champions last season. The quarterback room, there are some more names I could have thrown up on this board, but the one name that is on this board, I believe, will be the team's starter in 2023. In fact, I'd be surprised if it was any different name than Hudson Card, a former quarterback from the Texas Longhorns. Purdue got in the transfer portal this offseason, or spring cycle, I guess I should say now. Hudson Card, I think, has a lot to prove. I think he has all the makings and all the talent to be a pretty solid quarterback, but wasn't necessarily a big game changer during his time at Texas. So we'll see what Hudson Card is able to do, but he's got an opportunity here in West Lafayette to prove himself. In the running back room, you do lose King Doru and Kobe Lewis. Lewis was that third leading rusher last year, but your top two leading rushers from last season do come back. That's Devin Mockabee with 968 yards and 9 touchdowns, and Dylan Downing with 351 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also, Tyrone Tracy, a former Iowa wide receiver that was the fourth leading rusher last year, and the only reason he's in the running back slot on this little graphic of mine is that's what ourlads.com lists him as, so that's what I listed him as here as well. And in the wide receiver room, speaking of which, you do lose an absolute playmaker there in Charlie Jones. 1,361 yards on 110 catches last season and 12 touchdowns for the Boilermakers last year. He was outstanding. And you also lose Milton Wright, who didn't play last season because of either academic or team discipline reasons. The wide receiver words are hard today. The wide receiver core is going to look like this. TJ Sheffield, Mershawn Rice, and Brock Thompson are going to kind of be those leading guys there in the wide receiver room. But you also get a transfer coming over from Marshall, a pretty good piece for the Marshall Thundering Herd during his time there, in Corey Gamage. So this wide receiver room might be a little bit underrated. TJ Sheffield was the third leading receiver. Mershawn Rice was the fourth leading receiver last year. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Tyrone Tracy there as well. Now talking about the tight end room. Peyton Durham is gone, was your second leading receiver last year. 8 touchdowns, was one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten. He's gone, so leading the tight end room this year will be Garrett Miller and Paul Piferi. I believe I said that last name right, and again, I apologize for any mispronunciations across the board. Offensive line, you lose Cam Craig and Spencer Holstage. However, you return Gus Hartwig, Marcus Mbow, and Bahamain Musa, and also get a transfer coming over in Jalen Grant, and a JUCO transfer coming over as well, whose name I do have to remember. I found it right here. It's Isaiah Walker from Butler Community College in El Dorado, Kansas, the 58th overall community college player according to 24/7 Sports. Defensively, what has this team got in 2023? Well, you lose quite a bit off the defensive line, including the likes of Branson Dean, Jack Sullivan. Sullivan had 5.5 sacks last year. That did lead the Purdue team last season. And Lawrence Johnson all leave the defensive line. However, who comes back? Glad you asked. Kydron Jenkins, Corday Sindor, Suleiman Kapaka, and Nick Carraway all returned to the defensive line, and all of them had pretty good seasons last year. Sindor, 22 tackles, 4.5 sacks. Some pretty solid players on the defensive line. Also getting a transfer coming over in Isaiah Nichols. Nichols is coming over by way of the Arkansas Razorbacks, 3-star rated transfer. Linebacking room, you do lose Jalen Graham, who was your second leading tackler, albeit only with 52 tackles, but still good for second on this defense last year. Kieran Douglas and Samisi Fakasiaiki. I know I butchered that last name. You can feel free to correct me in the comment section down below. In the linebacker room, you return O.C. Brothers, who was your fifth leading tackler last year. Jacob Wahlberg and Scotty Humpich are all going to be leading this linebacking group this year. And then the defensive back group, Reese Taylor and Corey Trice are gone. Some really good players out of the secondary for Purdue last season. However, you do get your leading tackler back and Sanusi Kane. And Cam Allen led the team with 3 picks last year, also had 1 interception on the season as well. It was actually tied for the team lead with Jamari Brown with those 3 interceptions, who also comes back. And there are a lot of other names I could have thrown up on the board for the defensive side of the ball as well. But overall, not a bad roster. Definitely a very solid team for Ryan Walters' first season. We'll see what he's able to do with his offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell, and his defensive coordinator, Kevin Kane, as we take a look at the Purdue Boilermakers 2023 football schedule. Hey, if you see a game underlined, that's going to be a home game. Any game on the road is going to be in italics or the slanted text. Any game in green that I highlight is going to be a game that I have Purdue being able to win easily. Any game in yellow is a game where, okay, the other team's going to get Purdue a fight, but I still see the Boilermakers coming out on top, and red is a loss. So without further ado, here we go with the Purdue Boilermakers in 2023, and I think they do get a win with Fresno State to start out the year. Now, by no means do I think this is going to be a very easy game. Fresno State's been a very good team for the past couple years, and I expect them to be the same way in 2023. I just think the Purdue Boilermakers are going to get started out on the right foot this year, so I do have them winning that game there against Fresno State to start out the year. And I think this is a great opportunity to see what Hudson Card is made of there, right? For Virginia Tech and Syracuse, the next couple games coming up, a couple ACC opponents for Purdue. For the Virginia Tech Hokies, I think it's going to be another struggling year. There's some solid returning pieces on that team for sure, but overall, still not the best Virginia Tech team. However, this game is in Blacksburg, so I probably will expect Virginia Tech maybe to be favored in this game, although if early lines are out, you guys can tell me otherwise. I just do not expect Virginia Tech to be that good again next year, and Purdue, I think, is going to have a really tough time going into Blacksburg, one of the toughest places to play across the entire country, but I think the talent that's on this defense is going to step up and make some plays against what I expect to be a lackluster Hokie offense. And Hudson Card, I think, is going to make a couple plays there as well to give the Boilermakers the win on the road in Blacksburg. And then I also think they're going to beat the Syracuse Orange. The Orange are losing a lot of pieces from last year's team, and while Purdue does as well, I feel like Purdue's definitely the more talented team out of the bunch. So I got the Boilermakers beating both of their ACC opponents and starting out to a 3-0 start. Not a bad start for Ryan Walters at all, and maybe that boasts a little more momentum for him. But then Purdue, in my opinion, runs into a brick wall with Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's going to be a very talented team this year. I know there are some of you out there, which you have reason to feel this way, absolutely. But on why Luke Fickell may need a year to kind of get jump-started. I think he has enough talent there. I think he has his quarterback in Tanner Mordecai. He's got a great defense. I think Wisconsin's going to be really good this year. I just don't see the Boilermakers matching up well with the physicality that I think Wisconsin is going to be bringing in 2023. And same thing with the Illinois Fighting Illini here. The Illini got a great upgrade in the quarterback room with Luke Altmaier coming over from Ole Miss. That's going to be a really good defense as well. Yeah, you got to fill some holes in the secondary, but I'm confident in the talent that's back there for that Illinois team. And then also the kind of 3D chess style aspect of this game, right? Brett Bielema knows Ryan Walters well, and I think he'll come up with a good game plan to stop him. Even though it's a home game for Purdue, I still see the Boilermakers dropping that one. The Iowa Hawkeyes, same kind of conversation with the Wisconsin Badgers, right? Iowa is a team where they're going to bring a lot of physicality defensively. I really like that defensive roster that Iowa's got, and the offense is not going to be as bad as it was last year. There's just no way that Iowa's going to have as poor of an offensive showing this upcoming season as it did last year. They got a lot of great pieces from the portal to fix that, and the Hawkeyes are going to be one of the front runners in the Big Ten West this year. Purdue's going to drop that game, and they're also going to drop the game to the Ohio State Buckeyes. My apologies, that should say week 7 there instead of week 8. A little error in my graphics. I do apologize, but the Ohio State Buckeyes are a team that has a phenomenal offense. I expect that defense to really improve this year, and they just have more talent level in pretty much every position than what the Purdue Boilermakers have. So the Buckeyes should have no trouble, in my opinion, with the Boilermakers there. And then, again, I know the graphical errors there. I apologize. Purdue does get their bye week after that Ohio State game, and then you got to go on the road and play in Lincoln. This is a very interesting game because I definitely could see it as a winnable game for Purdue, but I also think Nebraska roster-wise has a lot more talent than what Purdue does. It's a very interesting quarterback battle when you look at Hudson Card versus Jeff Sims. It's definitely debatable on which one of those two is the better quarterback. I happen to believe it is Jeff Sims. I believe Hudson Card still has a lot to prove, and this is just a very difficult stretch of games for the roster that this Purdue team has. But Nebraska, with Matt Rule coming in, has a lot of great pieces defensively. They've just got to work on some of the fundamentals, and by this point, I think they've worked on a lot and have kind of broken into the Matt Rule system a little bit. And then Jeff Sims has a lot of talent around him as well. So I believe Nebraska will win that game. Michigan, much same conversation as the Ohio State game there. Too much talent. Michigan's one of the favorites to win a national championship along with the Ohio State Buckeyes, but Michigan does not have a lot of question marks at all coming in to 2023. And that's a team that, again, personally, I've picked to win the national championship, and Purdue is not going to be winning that Big Ten championship rematch in Ann Arbor. And I don't think they're beating Minnesota either. Minnesota is going to be an interesting team to watch this year. Now, it depends on how that quarterback, Anthony Kaliakmanis, is able to develop his game, but when I take a look at this Minnesota team, I see a great defensive unit. There's a lot of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. And yeah, they did lose some physicality this year, but I don't see Purdue necessarily being the most physical team either. So I think Purdue is going to have a tough time with the Golden Gophers, as Minnesota is going to win that one on the road. So 7 straight losses for Purdue. Unfortunately, you do not make a bowl game, but your last 2 games of the season are against, in my opinion, what are 2 of the worst teams in the Big Ten coming into 2023. Northwestern, I think, is going to put up a fight, and you can never count out Pat Fitzgerald. Just don't do it. He's a dangerous man, but Northwestern, I just don't think has the roster this year to be super competitive with a lot of Big Ten teams. I think they can be competitive in this game here, but Purdue will ultimately win, and then they will also win their rivalry game against Indiana in the last game of the year. Again, Indiana, this could be a team where either we see Tom Allen out the door, which I know I've said in the past, but something I've regretted to say is that, hey, maybe Tom Allen just needs a little bit longer to build this program. He had one good year. Maybe he needs a little bit longer, but Purdue should win that game. So overall, you finish with a record of 5-7. Not a super fantastic year under Ryan Walters for the first year, but I think he needs a little time to build this team. I think Ryan Walters definitely could be the right man for the job. He's a really good young coach, and we'll see what the Boilermakers are made of in 2023. I have them just missing the bowl game, so let me know your prediction down in the comment section below. But hey, as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.